What's up, everyone? Welcome to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesar Sportsbook. I'm Katie Mox. Today, we're talking favorite NFL bets for the season-long, player props and some team props as well. And we've got the gang back together again. Kenny Vets Big and Danny Brasco. Fellas, thank you for joining me today. How are we doing?
Who's going first? Who's going first?
I was going to say, my man Kenny, take it away. It's just I'm so excited to be back.
No, Danny, age before beauty, brother. You're up.
Oh, man, we are back, Katie. We're definitely back.
I know. We were just saying in the pre-show, it kind of reminds us of COVID days when we were all on the game day NFL preseason, or what was it? What was it called? Pre-gaming? Pre-game.
And for those that don't know, this crew was pretty dang profitable during that duration. So let's get it cracking again, y'all.
Let's get it cracking again. But before we get cracking, somebody was in court this morning. Kenny, you're a lawyer now? What's happening?
It's actually pretty funny because the last show that I did with you, I guess, was probably about a month ago now.
Yeah.
That was the first court date, and then we had to schedule a trial date, which was today. Pretty crazy. It's for my girlfriend, not me, but she got a cell phone ticket, right?
Talking on her phone in the car, cell phone ticket?
Correct. Well, allegedly.
Yeah,
allegedly. You know,
it's not proven.
It's not proven yet. I made sure to train her on the proper, language to use, so she doesn't incriminate herself. But the prosecutor is an absolute lunatic, right?
Okay.
So the first court date, she made it known to us that she almost lost her family in an accident where the person who hit the car was on a cell phone. So she has a very personal bias when it comes to cell phone tickets and driving on the phone. In the dash cam footage, you can clearly see my girlfriend's phone is in a hands-free device. In New Jersey, you can use
dash cam footage.
Yep.
Exhibit A.
So, I'm not going to lie. I felt pretty cool saying, hey, we didn't get the full discovery. There was no video in the discovery. I felt pretty legit saying that.
My God.
But yeah, she's in trial right now. Unfortunately, I'm not a lawyer, so I couldn't talk.
Oh.
You can't go to the judge's chambers?
No, I wish.
I wanted that.
But I'm not going to lie. I'm a pretty good damn sports bettor. I may have been a better lawyer.
I don't dispute that you could argue your way. So basically you're like you're her legal counsel. However, you're not allowed to speak at court. You're just coaching her on what to do.
Correct. But it gets crazier. So today we're talking to the prosecutor, right? And I'm just asking her like, hey, listen, it sounds like there's a little personal bias going on. That's all. She ends, so they call it a breakout room. She's like, all right, I'm going to put you on hold. I'm going to go get the video footage to send you for the discovery. And she didn't mute her thing. And she was talking to another lawyer. And she's like, this guy's such an idiot. He's a hostile jerk, just totally unprofessional. And yeah, so of course I had to let the judge know that happened, but.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Well, TBD on if the girlfriend gets out of this, but it sounds like you've got a good case, Kenny, and you've argued thoroughly. So we'll be on pins and needles to see how that turns out. But guys, let's talk some NFL action here. First off, I would like you both to drop some knowledge on the people here and talk big picture when it comes to preseason NFL betting. Kenny, how do you strategize, your season-long bets, and this is preseason, but more like NFL futures?
Yeah, so I don't go super heavy on futures at the beginning of the season. There are a few that I've already bet, that I feel strongly about. But I always talk about how, when it comes to future bets, that a lot of the times the storyline dictates how the awards are given out at the end of the season, right? Especially with Rookie of the Year or Coach of the Year, those type of awards. So I like to see a few weeks play out, and then I really start to dive in heavy. A couple years ago, I got the Rams at a very long odd price. I think plus 1,300.
Oh wow.
So yeah, sometimes during the season, some of these teams that are preseason favorites, or some of the teams that are have a little bit shorter odds to win the Super Bowl or win an MVP. Like last year, right? If you waited and bet Pat Mahomes during the season, you got a much better price on him to win the MVP.
Right.
So yeah, I personally don't go super heavy. I just, sprinkle a few here and there on situations that I see strongly. But then when the season starts to ramp up, I start to place a little more of them.
All right, Danny, do you have any differing strategy?
No, I kind of echo Kenny's sentiments. I like to lock in a few preseason, but the biggest commodity in the NFL and all sports really is health. And that
Yeah.
totally changes the market as the season progresses, right? The win totals, the awards, the Super Bowl odds, a star player, a star offensive lineman goes down, and that can totally impact the balance of a team. So I like to kind of see where the odds play out as it goes on. And week to week, I'll be looking to make my selections more so than on a season long basis. But I do like a few futures here, so we will lock in some preseason for sure.
We will. And Danny, what's kind of the ratio between, the futures that you do versus like weekly matchups of your bets?
Oh, I'm going much higher volume for weekly matchup spots that I feel like I can find an advantage versus, just a sprinkle, a handful of season-long futures that I like preseason. But as it plays on, yeah, I'm going to be making volume bets every week in the NFL.
And Kenny, I would assume you're doing the same based on my knowledge of you.
Yeah. Obviously, pre-game bets, on a Sunday, Monday night game, some of my bets can get pretty crazy, pretty large. But on
your name doesn't reflect that at all.
Yeah. But on future bets, usually I try to stick to like 1% of my bankroll. Like right when I tell my clients like, hey, I'm making this future, usually the odds are very long. So even putting a small amount of money has a very nice return. So you don't have to go crazy. Because like Danny said, football, it's so unpredictable, right? Like a guy can be, like last year, look at Jalen Hurts. He was running away with the award, gets hurt at the end of the season, misses a game or two, and Patrick Mahomes leapfrogs him and ends up stealing the MVP trophy. So health is a big commodity in the NFL.
Yes. Your biggest, what did they say? Your biggest
best ability is availability.
Yes. Best ability is availability. Health is wealth. All of the fun little terms there. All right, guys, let's get started with some of the mosts that we can bet on. And how about the last undefeated team? The Eagles are at the top, boo, of the odds board at plus 700. Then the Bengals, Chiefs, Bills, Cowboys. Danny, I don't think this is something that that either of us would normally bet, right? This is not something that you necessarily are throwing down all the time. But when you look at this, who do you think is going to be the last undefeated team?
This is pretty tricky, and you're right. This isn't a wager I'm looking to jump at. If I was going to wager on something in team-based, it would be over/under wins or season-long record, something like that. Best division winner, conference winner. But if we're looking at who stays unbeaten longest, Katie, you and I were both talking about how we do expect regression for the Eagles.
Yes.
But looking at their schedule, it does feel like they could get to week 6 or so without losing. I think 6 or 7, they get the Jets and Dolphins. I feel like one of those teams gets them there. So alongside them, I'm looking at the Bengals. I mean, Joe Burrow's calf is still slightly in question. I don't know, man. I feel like the Eagles will have a regression year, but it will start good again, and we'll have all the Philly bandwagoners jumping out. So I'll say that they stay unbeaten longest, but it is chalky and it's a dicey bet here.
I hate it. Kenny, what are you looking at?
The one thing I'll say about the Eagles is you always want to be careful. Teams that typically lose in the Super Bowl week 1 the following year, not a great record. Like look at the Bengals last year, lose week 1 to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Rams.
That's the only thing. And, I just want to point out they do play my Patriots week 1. So, Bill Belichick, I'm sure Big Bill's got something up his sleeve for game plan wise. So I would be careful with the Eagles. But yeah, these bets are, very similar to walking up to a roulette table, putting your money on a number and hoping that something sticks here. Because this is really gambling on these bets. So looking at them, I kind of like the Cowboys. I think at plus 1,200, they're kind of a sneaky price. Yeah. I don't think a lot of people are really talking about them. They added some big pieces this offseason. I know they lost their offensive coordinator, which does worry me, and it bodes well for another future that I like. We'll talk about later. But I think last undefeated team, I'm going to go Cowboys, America's team.
America's. I will say, I don't think that I would be shocked if the Eagles lost to the Patriots, especially what we've seen out of the Patriots hasn't been that great. But I do agree with you Kenny, and that Bill Belichick will have something up his sleeve defensively for sure. And I believe it is when Tom Brady is coming home and doing the whole jersey retirement thing. So the vibes will be high inside Gillette. So I would love it. I would just love it if they lost their first game. But now looking on the other spectrum, the teams that will be collapsing for Caleb this season, who's going to be the last winless team? No surprise here that the Cardinals are the favorite at plus 420. That is my vote. I don't see the Cardinals winning a lot of games here. I know that their win total is very low at 4.5. I think they could go under the 4.5. And I think it's like, is Kyler Murray going to come back? Well, I think it depends on how they do. If they're tanking at the beginning of the season and they go down 0-5, they're in no rush to bring back Kyler Murray. So I kind of think that the Cardinals might not win any games this season. And yeah, they look okay during preseason, but traditionally terrible teams look good in preseason. And that's the best they look all year. Danny, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I feel like Cardinals are ready to go 3-14 this year, and Kyler decides to spend the year on the bench after his team is absolutely going nowhere. So, again, like Kenny said, it's a roulette game here. Who gets the win for? Have you guys ever played the board game Codenames?
No.
No? You know Codenames? It's great. You got to guess a bunch of words. A lot of the words look similar. Your partner has to guess them, but there's a bomb on the map. And the bomb might be a word that's very similar to the other words. You got to kind of give clues that don't get the bomb. I'm looking at these wins, these teams they're playing. A lot of them all do look like losses, but one of them's a bomb. They're going to beat one of these teams. Cardinals get the Commanders in week 1. Semi-winnable game, although the Commanders have new ownership, new blood.
Vibes are high.
Yeah, vibes are high. Cardinals, I just have no faith in them. It's really between the Bucs and the Cardinals here. Bucs have a QB job between Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask. Yeah. And I don't know. That's going to go. I have no faith in the Cardinals' new year and John Gannon. I'm going to go with them at chalk as well.
All right. Kenny?
So I'm going to go. This is a little off the path one. I'm going to go with the Rams.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love this.
I'm looking at the Rams schedule here. They open up in Seattle. Right. I think Seattle is going to surprise a lot of people this year, kind of like they did last year. Then they got the 49ers at home. I mean, Katie, you know better than anyone. That's really the 49ers stadium, right? I had to learn my lesson the hard way last year.
I love hearing this from you, Kenny. I love this change that's happening to you because you were always fading. Yeah, Levi South. Plus, Shanahan's record in the regular season, not, when it really counts, against McVay is perfect.
Pretty good, right? Yeah. So then they go to the Bengals, then the Colts, who I think the Colts are going to surprise a lot of people this year. Yeah. I think,
Shane Steichen.
Right. Yeah. New head coach, Anthony Richardson, absolute stud out there. Obviously, they got a little dilemma with Jonathan Taylor, probably their best player. Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? Who knows? Probably not. But I think the Colts have a very nice roster. And I think with Anthony Richardson, if he, just limits the turnovers and just plays like a clean game, I think the Colts can surprise a lot of people. So yeah, I'm going to go with the Rams to be the last team to get a win.
I love that, actually, because, I am a Rams hater, and that is very interesting. And then to your point, Danny, if the Cardinals have a bomb and they end up just winning a game, I could see the Rams just totally slipping under the radar, and I do like that value there.
And the other three, the few other teams, I agree with Kenny, the Rams are totally in a rebuild year. I'm looking at week 6 for a potential game that the Cardinals can beat. Week 6, they play the Rams. I mean, they got a shot there right now that it's not McVay versus Kingsbury, who completely had his number. Maybe a new coach has a chance there. But looking at the other selections on this board, Vrabel's Titans, right? Steichen's Colts with Anthony Richardson. I'm not going to bet it. DeMeco Ryans and the Texans. These are good coaches. I'm not going to bet on them to completely have a floundered season. So I like backing, one of the other teams that we've selected here.
And I will say, Kenny, on the Colts, Jonathan Taylor agreed to come back. Now he's got some kind of family issue, but I believe that he's going to be traveling maybe with the team for their next preseason road game. So I think he will play, but we don't know what's going on with his family situation. But you were going to say something else.
Yeah, I wanted to point out one thing. The Rams actually, they don't have many of them, but they actually do own their first round pick next year. And how fitting would that be if Caleb Williams, USC star, gets drafted right to the LA Rams with John McVay? It just has, that Disney type movie feel to it, which we know the NFL loves to play into that. I think the Rams, if we're talking about tanking, I think the Rams more than anyone should be in full tank mode this year.
Yeah, because how long is Matt Stafford really going to play? Like, I would be surprised if we see Stenson Bennett this year, based on kind of the injury history and how old he is. So I actually like that. And it's so LA, right? Because USC football actually rules LA more so than the Rams do. And to have the USC, quarterback, that would just be. That would be perfect. And we know that the Rams like to do those kind of things, right? They gave away their entire future just to have the Super Bowl at home. They would totally get the USC guy. All right, let's move on to the Coach of the Year. Danny, Brian Dable took home the honors in his first season as head coach last year with your Giants, marking the 9th time since 2000 that a rookie head coach has won the award. What coach has your bet this season?
Katie, I got the Lions winning the NFC North behind the Fighting Dan Campbells, as you so affectionately call them. Give me Dan Campbell plus 1,000.
Right.
I really do think this team is going to be much improved. Hey, they lost both their running backs, so some of the concern is there in their run game, but they drafted Jahmyr Gibbs, and this offensive line, I think, is poised to be really strong, which I think will be one of the strongest features of this team. Their wide receiver depth is crazy, and the division entirely is pretty weakened. It used to be the Packers owning it, and all of a sudden, we're going to see Jordan Love at the helm. So I feel like behind a really personable and likable coach there, he's got the storylines, like Kenny mentioned, to win this award. And, just the popularity and fan vote. If he takes his team to success, Campbell's winning this award.
Kenny?
Yeah, I don't hate that one at all. The only thing is, obviously, you mentioned, since 2009, first-year head coaches have won the award. I'm pretty sure if you go from like 2010, majority of those have been since like 2010. So, a smaller sample size seems like new coaches, the voters tend to favor the new first-year head coaches.
Yeah.
Which I think we talked about last year on this show around this time of the year. And unfortunately, you and I both picked a different first-year head coach, and Brian Dable, of course, goes and wins it. But sticking with the storyline, I don't hate Danny's pick because, the Lions have been poverty for so long.
Yeah.
So the storyline is there, right? If Dan Campbell is able to take the Lions to the playoffs or win the division, it looks really good on his part. I'm going to go with Sean Payton because, he's obviously been in the media talking about how bad of a job the coaching staff did last year for the Broncos. We look at the Broncos team last year, the defense was elite, right? Like the Broncos had no business losing as many games as they did. The offense was just pitiful.
Yeah.
So you factor in an offensive guru like Sean Payton in there. Maybe the Broncos can, kind of shake and get some things going. So I think Sean Payton heading to Denver, if Denver comes out and the defense plays like it did and the offense actually scores points this year, unlike last year, I could see the Broncos potentially, making a little run as well, and maybe he wins it.
I like both of these picks. I mean, obviously Dan Campbell, the Fighting Dan Campbells, and he's just so likable. And if he can actually turn this complete poverty franchise into something big, I love that. And I love that for him. And I do think that, it's like the opposite of voter fatigue. People would love to vote for Dan Campbell in this because I think people just absolutely love him. And the Sean Payton angle, I mean, for me, jury is still out on Russell Wilson. But if he could make Russell Wilson look like dangerous again and the Broncos all of a sudden are a good team, I can see that. I'm high on the Bears this year, so I'm going Eberflus with this. And look, Kenny, you touched on the voters tend to like first-year coaches. Well, Eberflus's first year was an absolute disaster, right? They had the worst record in the league. However, Chicago did take advantage of some draft capital by dealing the number 1 overall. They added some pass catchers for Fields, specifically DJ Moore. That's been really fun to see in the preseason. Defensively, Chicago added a bunch of linebackers as well, which is interesting because, their identity for so long has been defense, and now the biggest problem with them is defense. But I think if Eberflus can turn this around from the worst team in the entire NFL to possibly winning the division, it's my long shot, Danny. All right, I know that the Vikings are, that the Lions are the favorite here, but I think Eberflus could be a good pick here at plus 1,300.
And all of our angles, sorry to cut you off, Katie, are the storyline that Kenny alluded to again is best to worst. The Broncos inept last year on offense. They couldn't do anything. If Peyton turns that around, makes Russell Wilson vintage Russ again, why not, right? If the Lions go from poverty to division winners, if the Bears can turn from worst, I mean, these are the ways that you win Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
Well, and it's all storyline and it's all long shot stuff, right? You're not looking at, someone like Shanahan who's, been to the NFC Championship game for the last couple of years. There's nothing he could do that could necessarily win this award, or even somebody like Bill Belichick. Even if Bill Belichick could turn the Patriots around, I think you're still looking at these storylines, these kind of newer guys. So yeah, this will be a fun one to see. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're looking at some player futures. You're watching Moxie Bets. We'll see you in a sec. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words, Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the type of benefits only Caesars can offer. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. All right, welcome back to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesars Sportsbook, here with Danny Brasco and Kenny Bets Big, my 2 favorites. Let's move on to some regular season player props, starting with the quarterbacks and passing touchdowns. Mahomes, of course, is the favorite to repeat at plus 300. He had 41 touchdowns last season. Good for the best in the league, followed by Burrow. Then you got Allen. Then you got Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if you guys have been watching Hard Knocks. That's been fun to see. Kenny, who's your best bet here for the most passing touchdowns?
So I like 2 guys. And the cool thing about futures is the payouts are so large that you can sprinkle a little on one bet and then a little on the other bet. And if one hits, you're coming out in the green.
All right.
So I think Justin Herbert is poised to have maybe an all-time season, like one of the best seasons maybe we've seen out of the quarterback position, right? Katie, we were lucky enough to have some inside information last year from one of the producers who's friends with Justin Herbert that he was hurt almost every single game last year.
Yeah.
So, he's healthy. They add offensive coordinator, the Dallas Cowboys offensive coordinator, who, obviously Prescott was throwing a ton of picks, but the Cowboys offense over the last few seasons has been elite. Right.
Yeah.
So you add a coach like that to actually call the offensive plays as opposed to the head coach, who's more of a defensive minded guy. And then you add in Mike Williams, right? Maybe he's going to actually be healthy all year. You add in the big receiver they drafted from TCU, Quentin Johnson. He's an absolute stud. So you're giving Justin Herbert, who's another year in the league, more comfortable in the system, healthy this year. I think Justin Herbert is poised to have an amazing year. And on the other side, Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson finally has an actual wide receiver core to throw the ball to. So I think, you surround him with guys like Zay Flowers, Odell Beckham. He still has the great tight end. I think Lamar Jackson could surprise a lot of people as well. So those are my 2 picks for to lead the NFL in passing touchdowns.
The Lamar Jackson pick is actually sneaky. I kind of like that one. I didn't even consider him for this. And the Justin Herbert thing, I like Justin Herbert for the most passing yards this season. I think he's going over 5,000 again. When it comes to the actual touchdowns, and maybe I was watching Hard Knocks late last night, right? So maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid or the jungle juice, as we like to say on the show. I like Rodgers at plus 700 here to repeat his 2020 performance, where he had a whopping 48 touchdown passes. Last year was such a dud for Rodgers, specifically in his passing game in Green Bay. So that he's looking to finish his career on a high note. He's got some good weapons. Garrett Wilson is special. I think the 2 of them, we're going to see some fireworks from them. Mahomes had more in 2018 at 50. However, the most ever is our boss, Peyton Manning, 55 passing touchdowns in 2013. Danny, where are you taking us?
I like that. It's really interesting. And also on Aaron Rodgers' Instagram, sneaky tag of offensive lineman on the Packers, David Bakhtiari, looking to maybe add another old teammate if they shore up that pass protection even more. Maybe the pass TDs are firing away for A-Rod. So sneaky look there, Katie. Look, I like the way Kenny played it a lot here. You sprinkle 2 guys, both big plus money payouts. You're going to make money. Mahomes is the chalk for a reason. He led the league last year at 41. Their red zone offense is insane. The trickeration and creativity of Andy Reid is like nothing we've ever seen. But the pick is Justin Herbert. I'm totally with Kenny. He had torn rib cartilage last year, like he alluded to, and just gritted it out the entire season. He didn't really miss much time. You didn't hear him in post games talking, well, I'm kind of hurt, so I can't do that. No, all he did was attempt passes, come second in the league in passing yards, like you mentioned, to Patrick Mahomes, which I like that bet as well, Katie. And he may have finished 8th in passing touchdowns, about 16 or 15 TDs shy. But with all the weapons that Kenny mentioned, a new offensive coordinator, I totally agree. I think he's poised for big success. So yeah, give me Herbie fully loaded, as we've said many times on this podcast, Katie.
You know, the thing is we've just been burned by Herbert and the Chargers.
It's the Chargers. They're just a snake bit franchise, man.
It's just like, come on. But I also think that, you know, we talk about a lot of like revenge, you know, storylines coming to the season. Aaron Rodgers, of course, is the biggest one. And then you got to think of, who was the Colts coach that got let go?
Jeff Saturday.
No, not Jeff Saturday. Got let go for Jeff Saturday.
Frank Reich. Reich, thank you.
Frank Reich, yeah. Frank Reich's got a big storyline. I think Kellen Moore might have a big revenge storyline too, because he was not the problem in Dallas. They scapegoated the F out of this man and made him the problem. Are we really going to trust, you know, why am I blanking on everyone's coach's names now? I keep wanting to call him Chip Kelly. He's not Chip Kelly.
Mike McCarthy?
Looks like Chip Kelly. Mike McCarthy.
Yeah.
They kind of look similar though, don't they? But I don't think we can trust Mike McCarthy to call plays.
Body.
This soggy old white dude. You know, Katie,
similar looks. Similar looks.
They look like chewed bubble gum. That's it.
But what I'm saying is, well, my point is, in this weird roundabout fashion, is that I do think that Kellen Moore is going to have a little bit of a revenge season. I think that Herbie is going to be fully loaded, even though I've been burned multiple times. I am putting my hand right back on that oven. So I like your guys' picks, and I like the Herbie situation. And anyways, I don't even know why.
Hold on, before we move on, we can't forget how the Chargers season ended last year. All-time collapse in the playoffs. How could we? Right? Yeah. I mean, I don't think anyone will ever forget that.
Brutality.
When you lose that way in such that game just reeked in that second half, right? Like just Justin Herbert got dragged through the coals. He has to bounce back this year. He's been anointed as the next, second coming of the elite quarterback. He's got to do something this year.
I will say Justin Herbert deserved none of the blame for that game. Right. That was all defense. He did his job, and then they just gave up everything in the second half. But I will say, I think their defense is going to be good this year too. Joey Bosa has kind of adopted more of like Nick Bosa's preseason training and diet and all of that. So I think he's taking his health really seriously, and so hopefully he can stay healthy this season. But yeah, the Chargers are the sexy pick every single year. We're all still drinking, the jungle juice, the Moxie juice, we might as well call it on the show. All right, so let's move on now, guys, to receiving touchdowns. Jamar Chase leads the pack at plus 400, followed by Travis Kelce. I love this to have a tight end as the second favorite in the odds at plus 500. And then you've got Cooper Kupp at plus 600, which I know we can't ever count Cooper Kupp out, but it seems like we've all kind of counted the Rams out. So I'm not so sure about that. Then you got Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs, and Devontae Adams. Danny, where are you looking here?
Okay, there's a reason a tight end is second at the top of this list in terms of odds, and I'm rolling with Travis Kelce. If we're going out on a limb and saying that Herbert is going to lead the league in pass TDs, then let me almost make a hedge and pick Kelce to be the receiving touchdowns leader if it ends up being Mahomes going to his favorite target. Last year, Kelce led the league in targets and receptions inside the 20 and inside the 10. We mentioned their red zone offense. It's like nothing we've ever seen, and I think those targets continue to come. Hey, our boy Alex Money Monaco, I believe he mentioned that Travis Kelce didn't have a touchdown for the first 5 weeks of the season. And he still finished second with 12, just 2 behind Devontae Adams. So if he gets started a little quicker, he's going to end up on top of this leaderboard. Give me Travis Kelce.
Kenny, sorry.
No, you're good. I was just thinking because I don't know. I think Kelce did score in the first 5 weeks, but there was a stretch last year where he didn't score for 6 straight games.
He actually
had 2 stretches where he didn't score for 3 games, and then a stretch where he didn't score for 6 games, and he was still 2 away from Devontae Adams to lead the league in receiving touchdowns. So I think if you're going to make a bet on anyone to lead the league in receiving touchdowns, if you don't bet Travis Kelce, you're crazy, because you can make the argument that Patrick Mahomes, we have yet to see the best from him, right? When you look at all quarterback metrics, Patrick Mahomes is really entering the prime of his career, which is crazy to think because he's done things that we've never seen any quarterback do in the history of the game, right? So to think that Patrick Mahomes is only going to get better than what he already is, and Travis Kelce is his go-to guy when, things matter the most in the red zone. Yeah, I feel like you have to go with Travis Kelce here. And at plus 500, I mean, the odds are pretty juicy too.
I love it. I love both of those, but I'm going to go Devontae Adams because put some respect on Jimmy G's name, guys. All right. Adams had 14 touchdowns last season. In 2020, he had 18 touchdowns. And look, if Jimmy Garoppolo knows anything, it's just to find the best receiver and get him the ball. You know what I mean? So someone like Devontae Adams, Jimmy G is going to do just fine. So I like the odds here for Adams at plus 1,200. And you know, it's only preseason and it's the backups, but the Raiders haven't actually looked that bad. They've got some depth there that I think are surprising a lot of people. So
I would plus 1,200 too for Devontae Adams. Like it's not like me or
it's
Danny.
Adams.
Yeah, it's not like Danny or I are throwing him the football. I mean, he's got Jimmy Garoppolo, one of the most winningest quarterbacks in the history of the league. So
he led the league last year.
Yes, it seems a little disrespectful to have him this far down, and I think it's because of Jimmy Garoppolo, which again, put some respect on this man's name. All right, so now let's look at rushing touchdowns. We got King Henry at the top, plus 600, followed by Nick Chubb, Jonathan Taylor, Bijan Robinson, a rookie out of Atlanta, plus 1,000. You got Jalen Hurts, Josh Jacobs. Danny, how are you going here?
I do kind of low-key like Bijan Robinson in his rookie year. I think he's going to break out. But so I might sprinkle that as well, especially at those odds. But my official pick is going to be Nick Chubb here because I feel like the Browns go with Nick Chubb. And their offensive line is poised to be perhaps the best in the league behind Joel Bitonio and Jack Conklin. Their center, Ethan Pochich, had quietly one of the best seasons in the league. He allowed 10 pressures all year. Now, I know we're talking about rushing protection on the offensive line, but I think that Chubb is just so savvy at finding the hole behind those guys. They have a lot of experience together, and the play action is so lethal when Chubb is doing well with Deshaun Watson. So if anything goes wrong with, as Kenny called him, creepy Deshaun, in his second year, they'll be leaning on Chubb all the way here. So I really like him, and there's a lot of other candidates that are deserving for a pick here, but I think Chubb breaks out this year and leads the league in touchdowns.
I like that. It's hard to bet against Chubb, especially when you look at the quarterback situation. Who knows how good Deshaun Watson is actually going to be? I am rooting for horrible. Kenny, what do you think?
This is a tough one because looking at the list, they all just seem so enticing to bet, right? Like Derrick Henry, you put $1,000 on Derrick Henry, you're getting back 7,000. I mean, geez. But they had DeAndre Hopkins, so I'm sure he'll take a little bit of the red zone targets, right? I'm gonna go with Jonathan Taylor. I think he's coming off a down year. Obviously, he's been the media, and there's been the back and forth, which I alluded to, but you pointed out he is back, so he is going to be playing. And yeah, plus 900, I think he's arguably the best running back in the NFL. And you add a quarterback like Anthony Richardson there, and you factor in the new head coach coming from the Eagles, what he did with Jalen Hurts, it just all kind of seems to make sense that, Jonathan Taylor could have another monster year. So yeah, I'm going to go Jonathan Taylor at plus 900. I think that's crazy. He's that high.
Kenny, I'm fully in agreement with you on this one. Now, I did take Derrick Henry with that to have the most rushing yards this year at 8-1, but I love Jonathan Taylor here. And for all of the reasons that you just laid out, coming off of a down year, an injury kind of laden year, he had 18 rushing touchdowns in 2021. 18. That is monstrous. Then you add in a mobile quarterback like Anthony Richardson. You add in Shane Steichen, who we know can run the ball and has a good offense that way. And it's a contract year for him. He's got to put up or shut up. So if anyone's going to be motivated, it's Jonathan Taylor at plus 900.
That's the point right there, Katie. We love betting contract years. Players show out when the money is on the line. So that's usually something I actually research. Thank you for alerting that bell in my mind, is look up every player that's in a contract year and take a look at their player props because the incentives are high.
Well, and that's the thing, too. When he was like holding out, not wanting to come back, I'm like, dude, this is not the year to do it. You're coming off of a down year. You know what I mean? You don't have as much leverage as you think that you do. Come in here with Anthony Richardson, with Shane Steichen, ball out, and then you can have an entirely different conversation, with Jim Irsay and everybody else next year. So anyways, right. Moving on to Defensive Player of the Year, Nick Bosa coming off his first win has the fifth best odds at plus 1,100. Micah Parsons is your favorite at plus 550, followed by Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. And fellas, I've said on this show multiple times, if TJ Watt is healthy, just nobody else is getting my votes, even though I love Nick Bosa so much. I mean, this guy has just been an absolute beast. He is a game changer when he is on the field versus when he is not on the field. It's absolutely crazy. His impact is undeniable. He was able to play 10 games last year. They went 8-2. They went 1-6 in the 7 games that he missed. So I feel like he's going to be back with a vengeance this year. We do know his brother won 3 Defensive Player of the Years. He's got 1 under his belt. I say he gets number 2. Kenny, what do you think?
I don't hate the TJ Watt play at plus 700, but I'm going to go with the favorite here. I'm going to go with Micah Parsons just because of how things ended for him last year, right? Like he was the clear front runner for a majority of the season. And then, Dallas kind of stumbled a little bit at the end and he lost the award, which seemed like he had locked up. And he is probably one of the most versatile defenders in the NFL. He can rush the quarterback. He can play in coverage. He's just Micah Parsons is an absolute freak. So yeah, plus 550. I think he's coming in with a chip on the shoulder. And I think the defense, I think the defense is going to have to do a little more this year for Dallas to really make some noise. So I think they'll come in and really, set the tone from the early on.
Danny?
Me and Kenny are in agreement again. I like Micah Parsons here for a couple reasons. Number one, the addition of Stephon Gilmore. I think even better coverage downfield with Trayvon Diggs and Gilmore creates more opportunities for sacks if the QB's got to hang on to the ball back there. And another one, rookie linebacker Overshown just went down with an ACL injury. Cowboys training camp was talking really highly of him. So now that means that I think Parsons has to go back to his kind of hybrid role. We see him kind of on the edge, rushing the QB a lot, but he can play linebacker and go rack up the tackles or even drop back in pass coverage. So I think he's going to be that guy that's just doing everything and being a captain on what we expect to be a really strong defense. And if the Cowboys do pull off that elite defensive level that's winning them games and leading them into the playoffs, I think Parsons should win this award.
Yeah, it was kind of obviously not a bummer for me because I like Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa had such a great second half of his season, but Micah Parsons was leading the pack for a long time. And I do think that he will, there's a reason he's the favorite. There's also a reason that Christian McCaffrey is tied for the favorite of Offensive Player of the Year. We already know. That's where I'm going with this. I've said it on a million different programs, a million different ways. So you got Christian McCaffrey and Jamar Chase tied at the top for plus 1,100. Then you got Justin Jefferson. He just won the award last year. He's plus 1,200 to repeat. Then you got Chubb. Tyreek Hill is kind of an interesting one. Derrick Henry there at plus 2,000. I'm going McCaffrey. I just think a full season with Shanahan, I'm sorry. There isn't an offensive weapon like Christian McCaffrey. There just isn't. And I'm excited to see what he can do. Danny, where are you going?
I'm with you, Katie. We're in lockstep. Let's go CMC for the dub here. Plus 1,100 on this kind of guy. I'll take it all day. I mean, the gadget player that he is, I think fits perfectly inside the Niner system. We saw it in his limited time kind of half season last year. But really, Katie, you might not like my rationale for picking this. I am slightly concerned with the 49ers quarterback situation. And I know Purdy's coming back, dealing, looking good in preseason.
Yeah.
But if an injury happens or he has any troubles in his sophomore campaign, Lance and Darnold, there's perceived depth there, but they give me a little bit of concern for a team that's supposed to be an elite powerhouse like the 49ers, who we all expect to maybe, at least compete to win the NFC Championship. If the QB situation is getting dicey, they're going to lean heavy on McCaffrey. We know Shanahan has a heavy run-style offense anyway, and I think he ends up seeing, a lot of action in the swing passes, the run game. Hopefully the quarterbacks stay healthy, but if they don't, it's even more offense based on Christian McCaffrey, almost like how the Giants rely so heavily on Saquon Barkley. That's kind of what I'm seeing in my head. I think he's going to have to be that playmaker. I think he wins this award with crazy stats this season.
All right, I like it and I don't like it, Kenny.
Yeah, the McCaffrey one is obvious, right? He's one of a few players that can do what he can do in the NFL. I kind of like Saquon Barkley. I was trying to pull up what his odds are because I guess his odds are so high that he's not even on the list. But I think Saquon Barkley could really do some crazy things this year, right? You look at the pieces they added. They add Darren Waller. They add some receivers there. Danny Dimes gets the contract. Somehow he's making more than Saquon Barkley. Doesn't really make much sense, but that's the way the NFL works.
Yeah.
I think Saquon Barkley is going to do, because if you think about it, he can do what Christian McCaffrey can do, right? He's a great pass catcher. He's definitely a better running back, through the in the holes. He's a better running back. I like Saquon Barkley to take that one from CMC. And why are you making that face? What?
I was going to say, Katie might have something to say.
Yeah, what is that about?
He's a better running back. He can do what Christian McCaffrey can do. We have yet to see any of those things, Kenny. But yeah, maybe this is the year. Maybe this is the year for him.
Katie, I know you. Listen, I hate the Giants. I I hate the Giants as a Patriots fan. But I think Danny can attest, right? Like, Danny, come on.
Well, I did end my argument by saying Christian McCaffrey can be the playmaker like Saquon Barkley is for the Giants and do everything. So, if my comp is Saquon, then I don't think Kenny's too far off.
I just haven't seen Saquon throw a touchdown pass. I just haven't seen, Saquon block. I don't know. We'll see.
Fair enough.
We'll see.
Fair enough.
Yeah, look, by the way, no shade to Saquon Barkley, and he is one of the best running backs in the league, and I'm glad that he got paid. I think he actually should have held out a little bit longer and could have got more money. So there's no shade that way. I just don't see the comp to Christian McCaffrey. I think Christian McCaffrey is a little bit more of a Swiss Army knife, and I think that Saquon is more of your traditional running back that is a good pass catcher as well. But I just think Christian McCaffrey is just like a freak of nature that literally nobody is built like. But that's just me. All right, guys. This has been a very fun show. Thank you so much for joining me, Danny Brasco and Kenny Bets Big. Tell everyone where to follow you guys and what you're up to. I'll start with Danny.
Okay, I was going to concede to my boy Kenny, as he so graciously did to open the show. But you guys can follow me at Brasco Bets on Twitter and Instagram. Always dropping analysis and plays the day, and hopefully I can make you guys some money. So follow along.
You can find me at Kenny Bets Big on all socials. And I've just been hoping that the Mets actually turn it around. I made some bold predictions last show with you, Katie, and looks like I'm falling on my face there. So.
Yeah.
I'm ready for football.
That's the thing with these season-long bets, though. You either look like a hero or you fall on your face. There's absolutely no in between. So, yeah, the Mets and the Yankees, both of you guys are suffering.
Yeah, I don't have too much to boast about over here on this side of town, Kenny. So don't worry, we're in the dumps.
The one thing I'll say though is the only I guess plus about the baseball season is I was literally about to purchase a Wander Franco autographed jersey.
Oh my God!
Framed up. And thank God I didn't do that because, wow, would that jersey be worthless now?
Oh.
Wow.
Crazy.
So, yeah, right? You have to pay someone to get it off you.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Probably. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining. Always a pleasure. This has been Moxie Bets presented by Caesar Sportsbook. Don't forget to follow us on social at Moxie Bets, and we'll see you next time.